Stay tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled today are photographers, agent Philippe Fevrier, and playwright Kristen Lazarian. Philippe Fevrier is a photographer's representative who was born and raised in Paris. Philippe, you're just visiting Los Angeles. Where did you go to school?
I didn't went to school.
You did?
No, I didn't went to school. My entry in the business was a bain douche.
Bain douche, the club?
Yeah, the famous club in Paris.
But how long ago was that? That's your schooling, bain douche?
Yeah, that was my school because at the time it was a very open place with a generation of people. A lot of magazine was going on, lots of artists, a lot of rapping, and it was just curiosity, meeting people, finding people. It was the way. It was to take care of people.
Well, what does it stand for? What was the name?
Of
bain douche.
The bain douche, it was really a bath and shower.
It really was. It started out as a shower house.
Correct, and Proust was there actually in the old time. Then the place was closed for a very long time, and it was a beautiful space. And in the 80s, suddenly all kind of generation of people coming from different places who have no place to go end up there. You know, suddenly one generation, all kind of point of view, and go there.
But it was a bathhouse. You said you were a swimmer, but
Yeah.
you didn't go there to swim.
No, I didn't go to swim. But I like the aesthetic of the bath.
Oh, you like that?
You know,
I see.
so it was like, and it was going well with the music. It was very dark. The first synthesizer and stuff like that.
Well, how did you get interested in photography then? If you were there at a club, you were with a lot of people. You were probably young, having a great time.
I was having a great time. I wanted to stay in Paris. I love photography, cartoons, movies.
You did.
I did some photography. I realized I was a very bad photographer.
Oh, that's why? So then what did you decide to do?
So I said, I have to find a way to stay in Paris, show the place that I love, be involved in the photography. And suddenly I realized that there was that job with a rapping photographer, something I didn't know in the 80s.
Yes,
and it was new at the time.
It was new at the time because photographers, an editor would just find a photographer, right?
Correct.
And do that. So what did you think that business was going to be? It was a new burgeoning business. And then how did you think you could just be a rep?
I knew at the beginning, I really have no idea. It sounds good. It sounds fun,
right.
And I went for it. And then I realized it was a great job, very interesting job, and it was merging at a certain time in the 80s when the business was turning more and more professionals. Okay, so there was more job, more money involved, more dealing with things, and it was at the right time. I think I was the right person at the right time.
But how did you then go about getting your clients? You had to know the business a little bit. You knew the people, but you had to know the inside of the business.
Basically, I went from scratch. You know, I show up with a lot of energy, went to see the magazine, went to see the ad agency, then slowly start to understand how the business is going, and slowly really help the photographer.
So. One of the things, though, that I think when we were talking, you said you started going in with the hair and makeup people. You started actually fashion kind of thing,
because
right?
what I did, the first job I had was taking care of hair and makeup person. He was a friend of mine who had troubles. I took back the agency, and at the time I had amazing talent, really great person. Okay, and because. Fashion photography, because what I'm taking care of is fashion photography. It's a little crew, okay?
A group.
It's a group. It's minimum is 6 person, but you have to have a photographer, a stylist, models, hair, and makeup.
And do you make that crew happen?
Yes,
it's
part of the job. Basically, my job is what? Is that I have a photographer I work with, steady. It's 3 at the time, it could be 6, it could be 10, no more than 10, because it's really a relationship.
As part of your
Yeah.
group.
And then those people, you work with them. You propose them, so you're known by different way, you show it to the potential clients.
Mm-hmm.
Then after, you find a job, you negotiate, you prepare the job, that means do the casting, find the crew.
You do that all?
Most of the time, yeah. Or if I don't do it, I supervise it to protect my photographer.
So you are representing really in a way representing hair and makeup, or bringing in people that you know you can depend on.
Yeah, so at first I was working with those people, but then I only work with photographer, and then there was other agency who take care of that. I could hire people for once.
So each part of that then has an agency.
Yeah,
that's
models
looking after them.
they're model agent, they're agent for everything.
Yeah.
Why they're model the agency? Because it's easier for the client to find, because they know that they will find certain names
Quality
of people,
or
and they're sure that the guy will show up.
All right. Well, that's what we talked about in the beginning. The photography was not that professional, and I guess
before the 80s, no, it was less professional. People were late, but like it was in the music business and everything. So the things turned more and more professional.
And
so
then what can you do? Then you had to convince the photographer you were going to do something for him.
Yeah. But it's really, but the good thing about my job is not very formal things. You know, it's more, you meet someone, you like him, you like his picture, and you want to make a little ride with them. You know, it's not very, it's more relationship. It's more, it's people.
It's loose,
feelings. Okay,
in a way.
and then you have to trust. The trust between the rep and the photographer has to be very strong, because I'm the man behind the man, but also for a certain part of the negotiation, especially at the beginning of the job, I have to speak in his name.
Right. So what kind of a job would we be talking about? Editorial or advertising? Let's talk about both of those. And what would you do?
So the most important thing for us as quality is the editorial. Find the magazine. For the exposure, for also the pleasure, to make strong images when it's possible, because there are a little bit more freedom in the editorial. So the very important thing is the magazine, is the base of the job.
So you know who to go to. You have the connections at the different magazines. So that's what one of your expertise is. Okay.
Correct.
And so if you have 6 photographers, do they all shoot the same way? Are they all the same style?
I always choose from people with very different styles. That they are not in competition.
That's what I wondered, yeah.
No, I'll try most of the time that people are not in competition in the same agency to avoid all kind of conflict. But also there's so many photography, where even when we're talking about fashion photography, which is my area of expertise.
That's your area.
Yeah, because, but there's so many ways of shooting, you know, and there's so many personality and so many style of photography.
So how do you find who you like?
Basically in a magazine. At the beginning, when I really started at the beginning, I make a breakthrough that job very quickly, because I was one of the first ones to look at foreign magazines.
You were in Paris looking at magazines from America, Europe, different parts
and everywhere.
England, yeah.
It's how I find, but also with luck, you know. One day it's a friend, a top model friend, who told me, I shot with that guy, he's amazing, you should see his picture. And there was Philippe Dixon, and she sent me a FedEx box. I opened it, and he was like a kid in the Christmas day. There was all those beautiful pictures done on the West Coast.
That's a photographer.
Of great subject, amazing, but that nobody have seen in France and in Paris. So by example, it was my job in that case was to bring Philippe Dixon into the eyes of in Paris.
So do we talk about Philippe Dixon lives here, he lives in Venice. He's been a photographer for many, many years.
And he's amazing.
We used to use him at Interview Magazine, I remember when he was first starting. But he has a certain point of view.
A strong point of view.
Very strong.
Very, very strong point of view. Plus also, someone like Philippe, by example, do one type of picture, very recognizable.
No color.
Most of it, no. Very low colors and a strong point of view. So even people who don't know photography, they can recognize them, you know. So it's not the kind of person who will work with a lot of assignments per year, because he got a strong point of view.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The guy who
Right.
hiring, he's hired by one job. The guy said, no, he did that already, so I won't hire
Can't do
him.
that. So we talk about photographers like Bruce Weber and Philip Dixon and Helmut Newton, and they were they were the rock stars of a certain time.
Correct.
Now, are they still at that level? Do they still have the control?
No. You know, we're talking about fashion and fashion photography. So fashion is you change.
Yeah.
You have
it's
to change
always
every
changing.
6 months. Every 6 months you have to change. But it's impossible to change every 6 months drastically everything. So it's why sometimes fashion is coming back. At one point in the 70s, we're in fashion again. Okay, it's redone by the designer. It's redone a little bit, but it's still. So sometimes you were mentioning someone I didn't read, Helmut Newton. Helmut Newton for a long time, he was a big photographer. Then he had long time he had nothing, no work.
Right.
And then at the end of his life, he became some kind of an icon. And now that he's dead, he's some kind of a god. So. And in the fashion photography, you need fresh blood all the time also, but also sometimes your style, even your strong style, coming back into fashion.
Yeah, the trends come back, don't
Yeah.
they? But the thing that when we were talking the other day, you said the art director now has so much control.
The art director have more control because the technology have changed.
Oh, and we continue to go with the new technology, right?
Yeah, because now, So
You have to.
So now it's there are a lot of great photographers, but it's also easier to shoot photography with the new technology. Those new technology have bring good things, and the bad thing also is that the art director, the client, everybody can have more control. When you shoot in digitals, the client can see it. It's like if you
right
were
away.
a cook. You were a cook and you were cooking, and the client is behind you. Say, could you put a little bit more salt here or a little bit
so
more
they
paper?
have the input there?
Yeah, because everybody see the things on the screen.
Well, then how does this creative person, the photographer, feel?
Not very good. Not very good.
No,
It's
so-
a problem. It's a problem. It's some kind of a problem.
So, but the other thing that I thought was interesting that you mentioned is that the art directors, photographers, fashion designers are all of a certain age.
Yeah, that's my theory. I think that when you're a kid, you absorb the things.
What's going on
what
around
touch
you.
Yeah, what touch you very much is the aesthetic of your youth. Okay,
That's
it
so
touch you
interesting.
sometimes even too much.
Right.
Okay, and I noticed that every 10 years then it was the 60s we were in fashion again, then the 70s, and I realized that the art director, all those guys, most of the time they got 30 years old. So they use the aesthetic of their youth to make their first jobs and their first commitment. So they can do that.
Because they're familiar with it and they
Yeah.
like it and
They
they're
like it, they feel confident with it, and it's part of their life. Okay?
I think that's really interesting. And I think it's something for us to look at. Because as you say, with all this digital photography, you can piece things together.
Yeah, also, that's something, that's mean that photography, it's, as he was known, and it was sometimes very technically difficult,
Right.
have changed also. Now some picture could be really a puzzle, totally a puzzle. I know a company that the hair are made on computer.
The whole thing.
The whole
Oh,
thing.
the hair.
So
I
the
know.
hairdresser is not doing the set really on the model. He's doing it later on the computer.
That's so interesting.
So it changed it's changed the whole perception of photography.
Does it bother you as a photographer?
No, things can't bother me when things change. Things change.
Yeah.
And he brings also something nice. We were talking, by example, about Philippe Dixon. He was known for his black and white picture, and he was only shooting black and white picture or sepia picture because he was not happy about the color film that was used at the time.
Right.
But now with the new technology, he can make his own color and control it, so he brings things. But you know, new technology, the bad thing, good things and bad things.
Oh.
But definitely it changed the job drastically.
Yeah.
Drastically.
And it's really something that you've opened our eyes to. And I'm so thankful that you came today to tell us about those things. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank
Philippe
you very much.
Fevrier, and don't go away. We'll be right back with playwright Kristen Lazarian. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Southern California playwright Kristen Lazarian graduated from Westmont College in Santa Barbara with a double bachelor's in English Literature and Communication. Next, she went to Iowa, where she earned a double master's in English Literature and Theater at Drake University and served as a theater critic for an Iowa newspaper. Did your big break come when you were at Drake University or before?
I guess I would have to say that actually before at Westmont.
At Westmont?
Well, my first production came at Westmont, and I think that was the first initial thing that swept me into the theater and got me really excited about being a playwright and really pursuing that.
Was Westmont just focused on theater, writing, that kind of thing?
No, I actually was able to do a program through the English department there that was a program abroad where we got to go to England with a couple professors, and it was Shakespeare and modern theater, and we were just inundated with.
That's why you were at the Royal Shakespeare Theater watching that, because I think that was a big influence on you.
It was huge. It was one of those light bulb moments where you think, gosh, everything has come together and this is what I want to pursue, and it was great. I left the theater. I found a phone booth because we didn't have cell phones then, and I called my mom and said, I know what I'm going to do with my life, and that was it. I came home, I wrote a play. It was produced at Westmont. We had standing room only, and I thought,
oh, it was, right?
Wow.
Oh, during that time. Oh, it was all, well, you were still doing your bachelor's.
Yes.
So how long were you in London? Or in England?
For about 5 months.
Oh, you were, so it was significant.
It was a significant amount of time, and just incredible exposure to the RSC and just amazing theater. And
then what kind of a play would you write coming back with that kind of influence? What was going through your mind?
You know, I actually wrote a romantic comedy that was very influenced by things that I was studying in my communication classes, which were about technology and about advances in technology. So it was, the play's called Between You and Me, and it's about a man and a woman trying to connect, but with all these technological sort of obstructions, you know, things that are supposed to connect us that separate us. It was the phone. And
what year was that?
That was in 1990 that was produced.
Patrick Marber wrote something like that too, with these love affairs with technology and going through the play.
Yes.
And they used that technology on stage, like flat screen
the
TVs.
email and everything closer.
But you were like, did you use that as part of the stage set?
This was sort of pre-email.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering what year it was.
Yeah. And now I think going back, I've tried to revisit that play, and even I think there's a lot of room to even sort of do more with it because the technology has changed so much.
Except that really is kind of a sign of the times, what you wrote. I mean, it does say what was going on at that time. And I think in a few more years, people won't believe it. It'll be like this archaic
It will. Things are changing so fast, and
So when you actually were at Westmont, and you then you went to Drake University, you acted, you wrote, you directed.
Yes.
How did you come about doing all of those things? Why weren't you just concentrating on one thing?
I was really focused on playwriting, and I did write a play there that did end up getting produced as part of their main stage season. But they had a great theater group that was part of the theater program there, but also its own entity. And so through that, I was really able to do a lot of things with directing and writing and
Does it
And then,
help?
of course, I studied directing. And
Does it help knowing how to direct? Does it help when you're writing a play? Do you think of those things?
it helps a lot. It
Does
does.
it?
It does. However, I've always said that when you have a great director as a playwright, and that collaboration is just the best in the world. I love working with wonderful directors. I love that.
You have worked with great directors, Dan Lauria.
I have,
And
yes.
Bruno
Kirby, the late Bruno Kirby. I have great influences.
And what does
wonderful
that
people.
do to your work?
You know, I think having people who just have obviously amazing instincts and insights, especially at a time when I was sort of finding my way as a writer, because that was some years ago, it was very helpful to have sort of the guidance and just the nurturing and the encouragement.
Did they choose your plays? Did they choose your play to direct, or
They
is your
did,
play
actually.
already there and they come in as a director?
They were actually chosen. Actually, there was a great reading series that used to happen at the Geffen that Dan Lauria headed up. And when I came back to Iowa, I just sort of blanketed, I had written a play called Love Like Blue. I blanketed LA with it. I didn't really know who was who. I just wanted to get connected.
You mean sending
and
it
meet people.
out?
Yes. And Dan called me and said, we got the play and we love it. We're going to do a reading of it. And Bruno Kirby ended up being in the reading, and from that he loved the play so much that he ended up directing it for something else, and
So
so
is
that
that
sort of
how-
evolved.
That's how the directors come about, or that's how because your plays have been all across the U.S., in theaters all across the U.S., and in many countries of Europe. How does that happen? How do somebody in Europe pick up your play? Or how does somebody at Louisville Theater or San Diego, how do they find you?
You know, there's different ways. A lot, once you start getting out there, you know.
Your name, you mean, or just
the name, your name and the play, and you start meeting actors, and actors know directors, and they want to do the play. You know, it's really about making connections, and just the personal relationships are huge, like in anything, in any line of work. I think it's a huge part of it. I mean, you can submit all you want, but it's when you really get to know people and they start caring about you and wanting to invest in you that things start to really, I think, accelerate.
What I would think is you did a reading at the Fountain Theater for the Armenian Dramatic Arts Alliance.
Yes.
ADAA.
Yes.
What was that play?
That was Push, and that's my most recent play. It's had a few readings here in LA. It was produced in San Diego this summer as part of a festival where it ended up getting really good reviews, fortunately, and we're going to go down Monday night for an award ceremony because it supposedly swept the awards of the festival.
Well, what I was going to ask is, if you do a reading and you have, like, how many people did you have in it? 10 characters or 8 characters, something like that?
There's 7.
A lot of characters. Then the way that person who's reading it likes the way they look and likes the way the words are coming out of them or they're acting, then do they go on and push, which is the name of your play, push to get it someplace so that they can be in it?
Often, yeah, that is the case. Funny enough, with this particular play, and completely by coincidence, Anahid Sharik, who produced the Fountain series, was in the play in San Diego in that production, just completely coincidentally. I had nothing to do with the casting of it, and the director called her and said, I have this play I'd love for you to do. And she said, oh my gosh, I know the writer because of ADAA.
Oh, and then
And
she
so-
produced the Fountain series, didn't
Yes,
she?
yes. And she actually, I think, she didn't play the main character in San Diego, and I think she was really wanting to do that, so she was able to do that, the Fountain, which was great.
And tell us a little bit about the story.
It's a story about a husband and a wife. Things go tragically wrong. The wife gets very suspicious of the husband. The husband is suspicious of the wife. And the wife ends up hiring a decoy to see basically if the husband will stay faithful to her.
Your husband was in it.
My husband was also in it, yes.
Your husband was an actor and a voiceover specialist, and
Yes.
whom you've written a lot of animated TV with, right?
Yes, we have. Yes.
Was he the husband person in this play?
He wasn't. No, I told him he doesn't get to play that role in this one. No. He
Tell
was
us
the
exactly
friend.
what a reading is. It's no staging, right? I mean, no.
Sometimes a reading can just be sitting down with a script and someone will read the stage directions and you really have to leave it up to the imagination of the audience. But this particular reading, actually they had script in hand, they moved around, there was a lot of blocking. Martin Bedoyan, who's the artistic director of Syzygy Theater Company here in LA, was the director of the reading, and so he put a lot of time and energy into staging it, which was really nice.
So you have, during a reading, you do have a director.
Yes.
At most times.
Yes. Yeah. Even for
But
really
you're not in
simple ones.
costume. You're not. You don't have lighting.
Sometimes.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, sometimes. In fact, the Blank Theater in Hollywood did a reading of it, and they have a series called the Living Room Series, which is an amazing reading series. They do it every Monday night, and they are totally staged with props, with lighting, with music.
Really?
And
they
so-
carry their.
And they just carry the script. So.
What do we have next, Kristen?
Well, I'm working on a couple plays right now. I'm working on an Armenian themed play and another historical play about the playwright Ephra Ben, who was one of the first playwrights in recorded history, female playwrights. And
What about film?
you know, I really feel most compelled to write for theater. I'm not ruling out any other opportunities, and certainly a lot of people have thought that Push, my last play, would make a great independent film.
But then
So,
someone else would take it over and write the screenplay, or it just depends.
it would probably just depend on the circumstances.
And
so.
writing an Armenian-themed play, of course, is you have an Armenian background. Will you use any of your background in that play?
I will, definitely. Yeah. For years, my grandmother has been giving me books and stuff about my own personal family history, and I keep putting it off. I just knew the time wasn't quite right. And so now that I've gotten involved with Ada, and I feel like it's coming. It's bubbling up, so I know what the story is.
You know what the
now.
story is? Are you the
Yeah.
center of it?
Not me, but close. Close.
Well, we'll look for that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching the Joan Quinn Profiles. Keep your letters coming to us at 777 South Figueroa, 44th floor, Los Angeles 90017. See you next time.